Hello and welcome to Resilience. I'm Katerina, someone who has been under pressure, chased belonging, burnt out, and started over and over again more than once, all while wearing different hats and having different roles. Today is a very special episode as it is not related with work matters, but mostly with life matters. And specifically, it's going to refer to my brother, as today is his birthday, but he passed away almost 2 years ago. So, this episode is more about grief, death, loss, the management of these situations, and the impact of these situations. So, if these topics are a trigger for you, consider that as a trigger warning and ensure that you feel well to listen to it. I have been thinking a lot if I want to talk about this or not, but I do always something special on his birthday. Last year, I combined choreography with one audio file that I had from him singing. 2 years ago, while he was still alive, I coordinated happy birthday wishes from all his friends, acquaintances, and people who wanted to wish him well and to give him some power. Unfortunately, he passed away after some weeks, but he had the opportunity to see that. And this year, to honor his legacy, I wanted to talk more openly about what it means to lose a sibling. How do we deal with grief? How do we deal with others? But also, what was his position towards life and seeing different aspects of resilience there? Because he was a particular character that I have to say that I miss massively, not only because he is my brother, but because we need more people like this. Alex was 7 years older than me, and he was sick all his life. At the age of 12, um, they figured out the correct diagnosis. They announced to him that he had 2 more years of life left. He actually died at the age of 35. So, if you don't consider that a miracle, I do. And I see that hard work, persistence, support system, and faith contribute together to actually revert situations with inevitable consequences into miracles. While I was growing up, I have to say that the strategy that my family kept for that was to not tell me everything and let me grow in my own way, knowing that something is going on, but at the same time, never presented it. Oh, poor us, we're suffering, we have a sick person, and so on. It was a normal thing that we had to be a little bit more careful towards certain things. Sometimes might be food or organizing our trips in a way that the hospital is close by. But it also had to do a lot with the notion of who Alex was, which means that he was a very social person, a person that could laugh and make fun of everything and ensure that he will always have a good time. To give you an illustration of that, if he was going to a hospital, the nurses and the doctors were pretty happy to see him because they knew that they're going to have a very fun shift with him. So we're talking about this type of person. On the contrary, I have been all my life a nerd, a person that doesn't want people around, doesn't socialize a lot, loves to read, loves to isolate, and talk very little for hours about very specific topics. So Alex was completely the opposite. But this helped me a lot to build a lot of social skills. And considering his situation, the approach that my mom had towards that was that every time he was going out, he had to take with him his little sister. And he was not bothered by that. Or that's what I know so far. The years passed, and I learned how to socialize. I learned how to take care of me, especially going out during the night, traveling different places, and so on. And when I turned 18 and I started living away from home, my mom came to visit for some days and she started telling me more things about the situation. So I started realizing how serious it is. And it's not something that it is a small little thing that we take care of. Because now I have grown, I managed to get into the uni, I moved out of the house. So it was my time, if you could say, that I could get all the package of all the information as an adult and all the responsibility to deal with that. So this was very intense, together with the guilt that came up, not only during my upbringing, but also about how do I ensure that I don't miss any interactions with him. And as you can imagine, what I started doing was to start seeking around with him more without telling him the things that I knew. Some of them he didn't even know them. And not because of alignment, but because of a duty, because of guilt. And of course, this backfired because we are very different. As a result, most of the times we didn't have good time. And at some point, he asked me, like, if you don't want to join on what I'm going to do, why you're coming and why you're sticking around? And I couldn't tell him. Basically, I had to make a decision to understand that I love him and I can be with him and I want to love him and to remember him well without forcing it, that things are coming naturally. And to feel okay with the realization that I cannot force love in the wrong form. I can love him, he can do his stuff, I can do my stuff, and we can meet whenever we both want in the context and the content that we both want to have. And this was a very liberating moment of our relationship because we had periods that we were not talking to each other at all, and other periods that we were constantly together. Choosing alignment and presence over guilt is a very liberating process instead of trying hard again and again and again for something that you don't want. You cannot figure out how to do it. The years are passing. All the different therapies that he tries, they do not work, or if they have a positive impact in his health, it had a toll on his lifestyle. And this went for years. I could see that he was not happy, but at the same time, he had never talked about it and he was never talking about it because getting again this concept of resilience in our society is that you have to push through and you have to push through by yourself and you have to show that everything is okay. And Alex was doing that a lot. I have spent a lot of time with him and I have seen him a lot reacting. And I know what hurts him, even though he was trying to hide it. And I have to say that the last years of his life, he was not happy. And I could see it. But he would never admit that. Besides the treatments, one option for him to stay alive and be cured was to do a bone marrow transplant, which is a very delicate process. And 2 years ago, he decided by himself that it is the time that he was going to do that. When he told me that, I was pretty excited about him and I wanted to contribute. And I did something that if I knew the result, I wouldn't have even got into this process because I tried to check if I'm compatible or not to support his transplant. Thankfully, I was not compatible. And why I mentioned that is if he was dying and he had my transplant, I don't know how I would live after that. So keep in mind when you're trying to help somebody, don't think only about your current situation and what you have now, but how you can preserve it for the future, taking into considerations what you will lose and what you will gain. But of course, in times of life and death, and if it's your sibling, you do not think about this. And we constantly think about positive things rather than negative. But sometimes it's important to be proactive as well. This guilt that I could potentially have transformed into a relief and a different perspective after the result. The days before he was admitted in the hospital, we spent them together, and I have to say that it was the best days of our lives. So we had the opportunity to travel around, be with some friends who were visiting from abroad, and had very special moments together, which while we were experiencing it, I have to say that I was very concerned because it was the first time that we neither had a fight while we were living together for about a week. And if you have siblings, you might know what I'm talking about, that it's impossible for such a long time to not have even a moment of dispute. And we didn't have. And I was trying to convince myself that, it's normal. Now you're both adults, you have your own lives, you do your own choices, and you might finally get along together 100%. But still, the other voice in my head was saying, maybe it's time that you're saying goodbye. And I want to stress that out because most of the times we don't know when is the last time we see someone. Either that someone is going to leave from this life or is going to leave from your life for XYZ reason. So instead of taking for granted the presence and expect the next time things will be the same, my recommendation here is to feel the moment, experience the moment, make it feel unique and alive and vivid. and take it all in, acknowledging how other people makes us feel. Tell them that because we all suffer from these insecurities, but we enjoy being with each other. So spend some time to do that. Be physical affectionate. Get your eyes away from the screen and just look at the person and say what you have to say, because you never know when you're going to see them again, if you're going to see them again, and if this emotion and this feeling will be the same after some time. During the period of his transplant, I was staying in Greece with my ex-partner, traveling around and trying to live normally. Why I'm saying that is that we have the tendency to spend all these moments with family members. I have to admit that for me, this was very, very hard for XYZ reasons. And I needed to be there, but also have my distance to protect myself. Usually, we put our attention towards the mother or towards the parents, but not towards the siblings. The siblings are there to support the family, but who is there to support the siblings? I was very lucky that I had this particular person in this period of my life to be there to support me, to make me feel that I'm still normal, that life still goes on, that this is part of life, but this is not only. Because life doesn't stop for grief and difficult situation. Your soul does, your heart does, your brain does, but all the rest of the things are moving on. And having this equilibrium between this situation happening in the family level, but also a life partner that can support was very rich and very helpful. And while he was sedated, and as I said, body stops working, mind stops working, heart stops working, but life still moves on. I am back to Estonia and I have a meeting with a new client. And I'm running late. I'm so angry. It starts raining. I end up dirty. It was just a mess. And I arrive. We do the meeting, it goes well. And as we're closing it up and wrapping it up, and just tell her that usually I don't show up like this at work, but I'm facing this and this and this. And her response to me was, Katerina, you don't have to support anyone besides yourself because you're grieving as well. And you are losing also a brother. It's not only your mom losing a son. And she didn't tell me something that I didn't know, but she phrased it in a way that made me understand that I need to claim my own loss. That is great to be there for others, but I am also part of that. I'm not like a supporter or a witness in all of this. I am part of it. And as I am part of it, I have to find my role into this. And this saved me, not only in the period that Alex was at the hospital, but also afterwards when I was mourning, when I was grieving, and I had to figure out what to do with this new addition of emotion in my life and the loss of the closest person to me on earth. I couldn't carry anyone else's pain and I couldn't show up for anyone else because I was struggling even to show up for myself. And if I cannot carry myself, I cannot listen, support, or be there for anyone else. I had to recognize my own pain as legitimate, even when others didn't recognize it or they didn't support it. I have a lot of examples to share about that from friends, from family, from work environment. And I'm going to just mention that about work because we are talking a lot about leadership many times. But to me, leadership was this particular example. Being in a place that I have been working very hard, many hours, many unpaid hours, many long hours, and having a new manager telling me while this was happening. And what I mean by this is the following, that since he was in the last intensive care, that means he was sedated with a lot of tubes connected to him, and each organ was failing day by day. So he was bleeding from everywhere, and we were waiting every day for him to pass away. We had this 12 p.m. call from the hospital telling us how many days they estimate he's going to last. I had this situation being away from home as well. And her expectation was that I would fundraise again for another event that I had already fundraised. and had the audacity to tell me that via phone call, hey, if you don't do this, then we're gonna cancel the event. And what I want to do was to cancel my contract in this particular moment, which I did. And at the same time, I had a contract as a freelancer with a team that was based in another country, that in total we have spent together maybe 24 hours. And when I explained to them the situation, what they told me was, Katerina, take as much time as you want. This is very hard. And if there's anything that we can do, please let us know. Do we need to send blood? Do we need to pay you earlier? Please let us know what we have to do. This is leadership. So don't buy what they sell to you as leadership. Leadership in that case is not pat in the back to say, I'm sorry. Leadership is to show up for the people who have shown up to save your ass financially, status related, and so on. I just had to talk about this because I feel that these moments of caretaking responsibilities, either for kids or for elder, for loss, for any other significant life event in the workplace, is something that we don't pay so much attention. And we think that with just 2 words or a card, things can be saved. Showing up for one another is what we miss from workplaces as humans. Particularly in that case, I lost the one person that I ever cared about. The person who protected me, who fought for me, who guided me, who I had fun with, and the person that I trust the most. And I still don't have this person. And I have to create a relationship with myself and my whole life of how to live in this situation. And on top of that, I get expectations from people that don't give a shit about me. And that's absolutely fine. But they have the audacity and they feel comfortable to come and tell me how I'm going to live my life. That in the good moments or my struggling moments throughout life, they were never there. What I'm trying to say with that is this was a big realization for me, and it still is, that who comes to me to set what? What is their role? Who has given them this agency to come and say it? And also, do they say it for me and my healing, or they say it for them, that they feel good about themselves? In other situations in my life, that there might be happy moments or any other random moments, I was not realizing that. But this was the only time that I actually realized that they really do not care about me. They care to feel comfortable about themselves, because death itself is uncomfortable. It was not uncomfortable for me because 1, I was aware, 2, I had done my closure, 3, I could see him before he passed away, even though he was not in communication. But I got the time to touch him while he was still warm. And people that had zero idea what I have been going through, what my family has been going through, what Alex has been going through, they come to tell me what to do with my life. Long story short, or if I could say in a nutshell, stop telling people what they have to do. Ask them first what they need and see if you can provide what they need. Do you need space to rant or to talk? Do you want a hug? Do you want to just do something to take your mind away? Go for a walk, go for a trip, have lunch together? Or do they seek for advice? I wouldn't go to 80-year-old lady from my village to ask for advice, neither for a call, neither for a walk. What I would like to do is to basically have someone for a second to understand what I'm going through and hold the space. And most of the people who are mourning, that's what they actually need, a space that they can melt. And as a person that was never allowing myself to do it in front of other people, this was a very big challenge. And I had to find many different ways of how to deal with that, because I'm good with words. As a result, if I try therapy, I know how to convince my therapist that I'm okay. The bet for me was to actually physically allow myself to feel the grief, because grief or any other emotion stay in our body. And I lost a sibling from an autoimmune disease. I'm not going to lose myself because I don't have the guts to face myself and just say, hey, you're sad. You have missed the most important person on earth. Deal with it. Let it all out. Cry. I have been crying wherever since Alex died. I've been trying public transport. I've been crying on the road. I've been crying while watching movies. I'll be crying while I participate in different ceremonies and events. I'll be crying at my work as well, because it's part of life. And crying or feeling, that's what makes me feel alive. Because when the death happened, I was feeling nothing. The last period of Alex on this earth, he was sedated, as I said, and we knew that he's going to die. But it was the moment that I have actually quit my job and I had my first big gig on a competition that I was hosting for 3 days. So I'm in Greece. I visit him on Wednesday. Last time I saw him with his body still warm in a very hard situation. Thursday is my flight. Friday is the event. And I don't know what to do, what choice to make. Should I go? Should I stay? Which decision to make? So I agreed with my family that I'm going to go. And if he dies before my flight, I'm going to stay. If he dies after my flight, I'm going to return as quickly as possible. So that was the premise. Friday, the event starts and perfect. Saturday, the event starts and ends late at night. I return back home and my parents call telling me that he passed away. So I have one more day to go in the event. And not only I have one more day, it's the final day of an entrepreneurship competition. If you're not familiar with that, the last day is the day of celebration, the days of the final pitches, the days of the awards, and so on. Team knows about it. I dressed in black and I went, I couldn't wear anything else. I put my makeup on, I put my smile on, and I'm going there. And I find that all my team is devastated. I still do not realize what's going on. I'm still there. I push through. I'll just carry on with my work. Feel weird, but at the same time, I have to do what I'm supposed to do. Again, my team was crying all day long in different moments. And even though it seemed that my body was in an autopilot to do everything and coordinate the situation, while start realizing that something has changed, these things take time to show up. They show up in random moments, they show up with random people. And in the beginning, I thought that my life will be like that forever. Especially the first period was that grief was living through me. I was not living through grief. But grief transforms and it takes different formats, goes through different paths, have different needs. It needs time. It needs space to be expressed. Sometimes through art, sometimes through talk, sometimes through tears, sometimes through laughter. And lastly, I felt this big responsibility and the legacy to put a word out there about him. His legacy in this life is through us, through those who are alive. And this is something that shifted a lot my mentality about what stories we say, how do we say them, and how our choices define the stories that they're going to say about us when we're not around. Because while you're still alive, you have the possibility to change a narrative. But when you're dead, you don't. In this episode, I'm not going to ask you any questions to reflect, but it's going to be more a suggestion to allow yourself to mourn. Own your own grief on whatever you have lost. Either it's a breakup, either it's a person or a pet or a job or whatever makes you feel that you lost something. And there is no hierarchy in terms of losses. It's not more because I lost a brother or my mom lost a kid or a friend lost a goldfish. Doesn't matter. You felt something, you felt an attachment. So the moment that this is withdrawn from you, is taken away, it hurts. And feel it all and own it all and live through it because there is a new version of you coming out of that you don't know, but you need to experience it and explore it, regardless of how hard it is. And I'm not saying that to, make it dark because it has been very funny as well. And I'll close with this story that it is not funny per se, but that's the way that my brother would deal with it. And that's the way that I dealt with it because otherwise I wouldn't. So some months ago, I had a traffic accident. And that night that I had the traffic accident was a tragic night for 1,000 reasons. But while I was in a place that I didn't want to be, in the situation that I didn't want to be, I asked for help from my brother. So what I asked for was to show me a sign if I have to stay or I have to go. And literally everything went wrong. While I'm saying that is that my heart and my body wanted to stay 100%. But I knew that this is not healthy for me. So asking from the universe and particularly from my brother to give me a solution on that, he created a series of events that couldn't get worse and couldn't let me any space for staying. So while I was a kid, I had broken my tooth, and for that reason, I was whistling the letter S. As a result, he was making a lot of fun of me. Even though when my teeth changed from kids to adult, he was still making fun of me. And the night that I actually had the accident, what was the bone that I broke was my teeth. And why I'm bringing this up was that I think eternity has a committee of souls discussing and deciding about the life of the mortals. And I believe that that night, the premise was Alex, she has to break something. So, from all the bones that I could potentially break, because I hit in a space that I could have broken my neck, my collarbones, my cheek, and my head in general. I broke just a tooth. I was very lucky, but also I found it super funny that he tried to protect me in that way. He gave me this sign. With that being said, I want to stress out of that each person has their own coping mechanisms. And I haven't brought this up for telling you or preaching about a certain way to think about it, but rather than to open a space that there are different ways to experience grief. There are different ways to live with it. There are different ways to make sense of it because it's not easy to make sense. And allow people to do what feels good for them, be there for them, and give them space and time to realize it, to embody it, to go through it, and create the spaces that they can talk about it, and let them share the stories that they have for these people. Because human race developed through narrations and storytellings, the lives from those who passed away. So let's give more space for storytelling. Let's give more space to life. Let's give more space to ourselves to feel this explosions of emotions that come out from grief and be humans to each other while we are in this process, because brain, heart, and soul do not operate in the same way while you're losing someone. I hope this sparked some thoughts in you, maybe recalling some of your own mourning. And if you know someone who could benefit of listening to it to cope with their grief, to understand themselves better and the situation that they are facing. Lots of love and happy birthday, Alex.